The wine hit her like a slap. 1 second, Aya Morton was standing beneath the chandeliers of Toronto's grandest ballroom. The next, red streaks ran down her face, her peach gown bleeding into crimson silk. A boy's laughter sliced through the stunned silence. "Now you look like where you came from," Preston Harrington III sneered, holding the empty crystal high. His mother clapped, his father smirked. Cameras clicked. No one moved. Aya did. She didn't scream. Didn't flinch. Her hand, trembling just enough to betray the truth, reached for a napkin from a shocked waiter. She dabbed her cheek, lifted her eyes and said softly, "Thank you. You've just made my decision very easy." Across the marble room, Gregory Harrington froze mid-smile. He didn't know yet that in the next 5 minutes, his billion-dollar empire would begin to crumble, because the woman his son just humiliated wasn't a guest. She was the CEO about to pull their $650 million deal. Stay until the end, because what begins with one cruel laugh ends with a reckoning no amount of money can stop. Subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales for stories where arrogance meets its price. For a few long seconds no one breathed. The chandeliers above seemed to hum, their light catching the wine dripping down Aya Morton's skin. The marble floor reflected every drop like evidence. And then someone laughed again. Gregory Harrington's voice. "Whoa, Cole. Clean that mess up," he said to no one in particular. A waiter bent to his knees, trembling. Aya reached down first, helping him pick up the shattered glass before he could. "Don't," she said quietly. "You've done nothing wrong." Her voice carried, cutting through the murmurs. The waiter froze, caught between shame and gratitude. Cameras were still raised. Phones recorded everything. Aya stood slowly, every movement deliberate, regal even in humiliation. Across the room, Melissa Harrington tilted her head, phone still filming. "You should be flattered," she smirked. "My son doesn't usually waste a good Bordeaux." Aya looked at her steady. "And yet," she replied softly, "it suits you more than it does him." A whisper rippled through the guests, half shock, half awe. Gregory's jaw tightened. "That's enough," he snapped. "We don't need a scene." Aya turned toward him, the wet silk clinging to her like second skin. "A scene," she said. "You created one the moment you taught your son that cruelty is a game." Then she stepped past him toward the stage. Every camera followed her. Her heels clicked against the marble, measured, unhurried, powerful. When she reached the podium, the spotlight hit her face, highlighting the shimmer of wine on her cheek. The crowd held its breath. "Good evening," she began, calm as steel. "Tonight I was meant to speak about partnership and shared vision. But now I must speak about something far more important. Integrity." Melissa laughed under her breath, but Gregory's smile had already vanished. Aya continued, her voice firm, unwavering. "Effective immediately, Brightwave Innovations is terminating all negotiations with Harrington Energy Group. The $650 million deal we discussed. Consider it cancelled." Gasps burst through the crowd. A reporter's flash went off. Someone dropped their drink. "What?" Gregory barked. "You can't." "I can," Aya said, turning her gaze directly on him. "And I just did." The silence that followed was absolute. Her tone was calm, but the undercurrent of authority was undeniable. She leaned closer to the microphone. "Our company believes in progress built on respect. Not arrogance. Not entitlement. Tonight has made it clear. Those values do not live here." Behind her, the massive projection screens flickered to life, showing Brightwave's logo. Clean, radiant blue light filling the ballroom like dawn breaking. Aya stepped back from the podium, giving one final nod to the audience. "Good night," she said. And she walked away. Phones erupted. People whispered her name. Preston's smirk vanished, replaced by a blank, childlike confusion. Melissa's laughter died in her throat. Gregory's face flushed red as he lunged forward, but security, sensing the shift in power, gently blocked his path. Outside, the night air bit cold against Aya's skin. The paparazzi were already there, flashes exploding like lightning. Devon Shaw, her head of PR, sprinted from a waiting car. "Aya, it's everywhere already," he said, out of breath. Twitter, LinkedIn, CNN's picking it up. CEO humiliated, cancels deal on stage. It's gone viral. Aya looked up at the glittering skyline. "Good," she said quietly. "Let them watch." By morning, her phone was a storm of notifications. Some praised her composure. Others questioned it. "Unstable," one headline read. "Too emotional for leadership," said another. Devon burst into her office, tablet glowing. The Harringtons are spinning the story. They've got PR firms framing it as a personal meltdown. Gregory's on CNBC in 2 hours. I nodded. "Then we'll go first." She pressed record on her phone. The camera steadied on her face, tired but defiant. "This isn't about a spilled drink," she began. "It's about what happens when privilege goes unchecked. When people think money erases humanity." She paused, letting the silence breathe. "If that makes me unstable, so be it. I'd rather be unstable with integrity than balanced on the weight of hypocrisy." Devon hit upload. Within minutes, her statement hit every platform. Support flooded in from across the country. Executives, activists, ordinary workers who'd seen their dignity dismissed. But the Harringtons didn't back down. 3 days later, Aya's assistant rushed into her office. "You need to see this." On the giant screen, Gregory Harrington appeared at a press conference, voice dripping with false sorrow. "Ms. Morton's actions were regrettable," he said. "We wish her well in her recovery." "Recovery," Devon muttered. "He's implying." I exhaled slowly. "That I'm unstable." "Of course." Then came the twist. Preston's tearful interview aired that evening. His voice trembling as he said, "She scared me. She said if we didn't give her what she wanted, she'd destroy my family." I froze. "That never happened." Devon grimaced. "They've released security footage. It looks like you confronting him backstage." He pressed play. The grainy video showed a woman, same height, same posture, jabbing a finger toward Preston. The audio, distorted but clear enough, captured a voice threatening him. His stomach dropped. "That's not me. That's a deepfake." "I know," Devon said. "But the public doesn't." The media storm was instantaneous. Brightwave CO threatens minor. Corporate bully or victim. The same people who'd called her brave now called her dangerous. Investors panicked. Contracts froze. And then came the hate mail. The next night, graffiti covered the walls outside her condo. Red paint. Racial slurs. "Go back. Monster." Aya stood at her window, watching police lights dance across the glass. Her security chief urged her to step back, but she couldn't. "They're not protecting me," she said softly. "They're protecting the story." Downstairs, a brick shattered her front window. That was the moment something in her changed. Not fear, resolve. At 5 a.m., she sat in her office, hair tied back, surrounded by stacks of documents. Eleanor Reed, a woman in her 70s with sharp eyes and trembling hands, sat across from her. "I worked for the Harringtons for 27 years, Eleanor said. "I kept everything. The racism, cover-ups, the bribes. I have proof." You blinked. "Why come forward now?" Eleanor's eyes welled. "Because watching them humiliate you felt like watching myself all over again. I stayed silent then. I won't now." She opened a worn leather satchel. Inside were journals, photos, USB drives. Years of evidence. I reached out, her hand steady. "Then we bring them down, together." Over the next 48 hours, Brightwave's top legal team worked around the clock. Devon organized journalists, whistleblower networks, and forensic analysts. The deeper they dug, the darker it got. Embezzlement, tax fraud, discrimination lawsuits buried under settlements. The Harringtons had been bleeding their company dry for years. I paced the conference room, voice sharp. "They wanted a war," she said. "Let's give them one with facts." When she spoke those words, something electric shifted in the room. People straightened. Phones buzzed. Typing quickened. The team moved as one. By the third night, they had enough evidence to collapse the Harrington empire. Aya stood at the head of the table, exhaustion in her eyes but fire in her voice. We release everything at sunrise. Every document, every recording, every memo. No more silence. Eleanor nodded, tears glistening. It's time. 6 a.m. The files went live. Headlines exploded. Harrington dynasty accused of decades-long fraud. Whistleblower evidence confirms corporate racism. Federal investigation imminent. By noon, Harrington Energy stock had fallen 48%. Board members resigned. Federal agents swarmed their headquarters. Cameras caught Gregory being handcuffed on the front steps, shouting, "You can't do this to me." But they could. Melissa Harrington was arrested hours later for obstruction. Preston, the boy who poured the wine, was placed in rehabilitation for psychological treatment and media manipulation training. His tears no longer a shield. Across town, Aya and Eleanor watched it all unfold from Brightwave's office. Eleanor whispered, "You did it." Aya shook her head gently. "We did it. And it's not over yet." She turned to her team. "From this moment we build something bigger. Not revenge. A system that protects people like Eleanor." The room fell silent as she continued. Brightwave will establish a $50 million fund for whistleblowers. We'll call it the Eleanor Reed Justice Initiative. Devon smiled through tears. "That's how you end an empire, with light." Aya nodded, eyes fixed on the sunrise spilling across the skyline. "And truth." That afternoon, the news showed the Harringtons being escorted from court, Melissa screaming, Gregory pale, cameras clicking like a symphony of judgment. Reporters shouted questions. No one answered. Inside the courthouse, a woman in a white suit passed them quietly. They saw her but said nothing. She didn't look back. Weeks later, Brightwave had never been stronger. New contracts poured in. Investors praised the company's ethics. Aya's face appeared on magazine covers, not as a victim, but as a symbol of unshakable strength. And in downtown Toronto, a new building rose. The Eleanor Reed Justice Institute. The plaque read, "For those who refuse to stay silent." Inside, Aya walked alongside Eleanor, both smiling as workers installed glass walls and filled the rooms with light. "This is just the beginning," Aya said softly. "They thought humiliation could break me. But all it did was show me who I am." Eleanor squeezed her hand. "And now everyone else knows it too." Outside, the city moved on. But the story lived, told in whispers, classrooms, boardrooms, and every place where someone dared to speak truth to power. That night, as the institute lights flickered on for the first time, Aya stood on the rooftop terrace, the same skyline glimmering around her. Devon joined her, phone in hand. "Harrington Energy officially dissolved," he said. "Federal audit confirms total collapse. Justice Department's pressing charges. It's over." Aya smiled faintly. "No," she said. "It's just finally fair." She turned to him, wind lifting her hair. "Make sure the video stays up. Let people see what happens when you try to destroy someone who built herself from nothing." Devon nodded. Already trending again. #Justice for Aya, at #1. Aya looked down at the street far below. People laughing, lights glowing, life moving forward. "Good," she murmured. "Let them remember the wine. And the woman who turned it into fire." The city lights shimmered against the glass as Aya stood once more on the rooftop where everything had begun. The same skyline that once watched her humiliation now reflected her triumph. But her expression wasn't proud. It was peaceful. For the first time in years, she felt free from proving anything to anyone. Devon joined her quietly. "You changed more than a company, Aya," he said. "You changed how people see strength." Aya smiled faintly. "Strength isn't about standing tallest," she replied. "It's about standing true, especially when it costs you everything." Below them, The Eleanor Reed Institute glowed like a beacon. Inside, a new generation of voices was rising. Louder, braver, unstoppable. Aya watched in silence, the wind lifting her hair, carrying the sound of laughter from the street. Sometimes the loudest victories come from quiet courage. And sometimes justice doesn't roar, it simply shines. If this story moved you, like, share and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales, where truth always finds its voice.